I couldn't get on last week. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but I'm okay now.
Excellent.
Hello?
Hello. Bear with me a second, just letting more people in. Hi there, everyone. How's everyone doing at this moment?
Good,
Hello.
good.
Hello.
Hello, Glenn. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Good.
Yeah. In lockdown.
Yeah, another 3 weeks
Oh God, yeah.
or more. Probably end up being more than that, I guess.
Yeah, I think it probably will.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the likes of me anyway.
Better be safe.
It's true. That's true.
Okay. I'm just gonna do some settings here, guys. Bear with me a sec. Let some more people in.
You want us to turn off the mics, don't you?
When people aren't talking most of the time, it's best if the mics are off, and then just everyone's got a little microphone switch on your own panel. You can click it to mute it and unmute it, and then when you want to say something, it's best to then unmute it. Otherwise, we do get some feedback and some weird stuff happening now and again.
Okay, will do.
We'll just leave it a couple of minutes for any stragglers and stuff to come along.
I decided to go on camera just this once.
Good for you.
Hi. Thanks. I'm really shy, so.
Don't be shy. We're all not used to this camera thing. It's a new thing that I guess we're all gonna have to get used to.
Yeah, I'm really nervous in front of cameras.
Yeah, me too. Even in front when I'm doing RV in front of a camera as well. I hate all camera stuff. That's just not natural to me.
Huh, you don't seem nervous at all.
Oh, I am. I hate it. I hate my voice. I hate everything about it.
Huh.
The people I work with are good though. Dick is a natural, but he's been a Hawaii newscaster for 20+ years. So yeah, he's a.
Oh wow, Hawaii.
Yeah, he's a real natural. Yeah.
Yeah, he must be pretty comfortable. I was on stage. I used to sing in a band. So I'm used to being in front of people. That's not what bothers me. I just don't feel photogenic. I feel like camera is not friendly to me. So I don't feel it shows me for who I really am.
Yeah, we all feel that, I think.
I'm actually sweating. I'm just going to get up for a sec.
Yeah, don't worry. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm just that nervous, you see. Oh. But I'm really happy that I found this group because I've had no one to talk to about any of this and no one to relate to about it.
Well, we do like to share and talk, so you're welcome here.
Most of the people I've spoken to don't really understand remote viewing. A lot of people say they don't believe in it.
Yeah, you get that a lot, and it is a pretty niche field, really. You've got the bigger kind of psychic field, and then you've got all the little subdivisions of clairvoyance and mediumship and stuff. And remote viewing is only a tiny little segment within that, really.
You know how I found out about it and started researching it just recently? This is kind of funny. I was talking with, is it Gail? And
Gail Husick?
She's on right now. I was talking with her messaging. And it's funny because I started looking up remote viewing on YouTube and I found a video by John Vivanco.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is John was talking about how they were being stalked and hassled when they were working as a company independently. And that interested me because I've experienced some of that myself. And then what is really interesting is I started seeing John Vivenco doppelgangers everywhere. And I thought, all right, something is up with this. So I started doing more research. And I really liked when I found CRV because it's scientific. So there's some things that can be verifiable.
Yeah.
And I noticed the stuff about ET, and I've noticed lately, I mean, since Stephen Hawking died, especially, people have been talking about how statistically ET must exist. So I don't have a problem with that. I just have never seen ET myself, ever.
Okay, yeah.
Even in remote viewing visions, I haven't had any intrusions from ET. But I'm not really open to it. And if I did, I might ignore it,
Yeah.
you know? I just wanted to be careful. You know, I feel it's important to be careful to protect yourself, right?
Yes. Oh, definitely. Yeah. You got to be careful, especially if it's a non-physical or kind of dimensional entities and stuff, because you don't know what their intentions are really.
Well, that's interesting because that's arguable. I'd agree with you that you don't automatically know, but I think you can know. Like I've seen some people talk about how they can jump into the bodies, minds of subjects. And I think that's possible.
Yeah, but they also they can also have human traits, and they can also lie if they want to as well.
Exactly. They can lie very well.
It's just a case of like everyday life, really, having a bit of common sense in everything you do.
It's consciousness. That's what it is. And consciousness is mysterious and not easy to navigate. And it's, as you've discovered, a lot bigger than people think.
Yes, it's the implications are astounding, really, once you start looking into this kind of stuff.
Well, I discovered Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose's work before I discovered remote viewing. So I don't know if you've looked at their work at all.
Yep.
And it really helped me to understand how I might be doing this remote viewing, because I had to know how it was happening in reality, because I just wasn't going to believe it if it was airy-fairy. And if it wasn't scientifically actually happening, with particles, right? Then I wasn't going to be having any of it. So that's, I think, why I discovered them first.
Yeah. Okay, well, hello everyone, all the new people that are joining. What I suggested at times is, if you aren't going to talk a lot, it's probably best to keep your microphone muted, and then if you do have something to say, mute your microphone, because sometimes some people have microphones that interrupt and cause feedback in the conversation. Just bear that in mind a little bit. And if I do, pick up some feedback stuff at my end here, don't be offended if I start muting people's microphones and that. You can always click on the little button there on your picture to unmute yourself and ask any questions. So I don't know where we want to start today, really. I thought we'd have we might want to have a chat about Ingo Swann and the Penetration book, because it's a pretty amazing book and it's come up quite a lot in the Facebook group recently. Bear with me a sec, I'm just admitting more people here as they come in late. And the newly released book as well. I don't know if I can show you here because it doesn't work so well with the screen thing on there. So the initial book by Ingo was it's not going to show up very well with the screen effect on, I don't think. Can I get that there? Maybe it needs light onto it. Yeah, so that was the initial book. Hard to see, and it was white. And it's just been re-released as this book here. Can I get some light onto that? Yeah. And the good thing about the new re-release is there's a missing chapter in it that wasn't in the first book that Ingo omitted for some reason. It's a shame because I met him and I would have liked to ask him some questions about that because I asked him about the rest of the book. But the omitted section was entirely about Mars and some really amazing remote viewing that was done on structures on Mars, which is quite good because it tallies with quite a lot of research that some of the people here have got, and we've seen over the years in remote viewing groups, and we've all heard of Joe McMoneagle looking at stuff on Mars and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, very interesting stuff. But not only Mars, the whole book really deals with the moon as well, and just Ingo's experiences as well, because if you has everyone read the book? No.
Yeah, I've read it.
Definitely, yeah. Show with your hand if you kind of read the book or not.
I've just started reading it.
Yeah, excellent. Well, it's an amazing book, and it's different than all Ingo's other books. All Ingo's other books are very, very wordy. Ingo has a very complex understanding of language. Yeah, so some of his work is very hard to read. Sometimes you have to read it 2 or 3 times to really get to it because it's really hardcore. But this book's completely different, the Penetration book, and it reads a bit like it's a fiction. And I believe that some of the top remote viewers out there are unsure of whether it's a fiction or fact. Now I'm convinced it's true, and a good friend of mine as well, who was a good friend of Ingo's for many years, Robert Knight, the photographer. We've had many discussions about this, and he said he quizzed Ingo over and over and over again for years, trying to trip him up to try to see if he backtracked on anything, to see if the encounters in the book weren't true. And he said after doing that for a number of years, he just realized that it's clearly all true. And I did visit Ingo in I think 2011. I have a picture, but I don't know if it'll show. No, it's not going to show today because look at the background. You can't see it very well. Just about to see it there. So I visited him at his New York apartment, and I asked him a huge amount of questions. I spent the whole day with him asking him questions. Big long list I had, and a lot of them were about the book Penetration. And he was adamant to me that the experiences in the book were very true. And for those people that haven't read it, he has some very hardcore experiences with some kind of secret group of people that asked him to remote view structures on the moon. And it goes quite in depth into that. And it was I think it was in the late 70s when that happened to him. And it quickly dawned on him when he was having the conversations with the people that were asking him to remote view the moon that there was some kind of problem they were having, which I guess is just after all the moon stuff, where we went to the moon and stuff, and we haven't been back since. So it's quite in-depth stuff. So and it's absolutely fantastic stuff. But not only did they get him to remote view the moon as well, this secret kind of clandestine group of people, it's really hard to work out who they are because even Ingo didn't know. Also took Ingo to, and it looks like it's in Alaska because you can kind of work that out from some of the hints in the book that Ingo saw as he had the experience. They took him to Alaska to some kind of remote location, and they actually allowed him to see a UFO craft materialize in front of them. And it's strange. It's a strange occurrence because it started off not being a physical craft. In most time when we hear of UFO stories, it's like a triangle or elliptical shaped object in the sky. But this object, Ingo described, it was above a lake, and there was a disturbance in the lake and in the atmosphere, and then the craft literally grew and materialized from nothing in front of them to a craft. I think he says it's 100 feet in shape and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it kind of materialized out of nothing really. So he had that experience. He also had another experience where he was in a supermarket, I think it was in LA, doing some shopping, and he feels he accidentally bumped into almost a very high-powered female alien type creature that had very strong telepathic powers, all this kind of stuff. So he had these experiences, and they're all in the book, detailed very well, and and it's a book, as I said, unlike any other writing Ingo's done, you know, because I've read all of his books and his online writings and everything. It's in a slightly different, more friendlier style, I would say. And yeah, you know, and Ingo is in my opinion a person of impeccable integrity and honesty. He told me it was true. He told others it was true. After communicating with him for many years, I have no reason to believe that it's false in any way. Yeah, so it's an amazing book and amazing experiences, really, and almost like the cornerstone for what everyone else could be doing or should be doing, maybe with remote viewing. Although I don't know about, and I've had talks with Russell on this, online and offline, about contacting with remote viewing and contacting aliens and other life forms. Although I have done that myself in a previous set of work before remote viewing, and I detailed it and I wrote it all down in the book, but even half the experiences I had then were quite, would violent be the word? Confrontational. So, you know, I do know from personal experiences that a lot of the experiences with these non-human life forms are or can be more beneficial to them than us and stuff. But Ingo seemed to have some good experiences, and and as I said, I have no reason to disbelieve him. As I said, in the penetration, he talks about doing RV stuff on the moon as well, looking at stuff on the moon. And many of us here, and I know many people within remote viewing it over years, we've done many targets on the moon and seen all kinds of stuff. And I might, if I can find some, I might show you some tonight, some sessions. And I asked Ingo, you know, loads of questions, as I said, and I was asking him about the moon. I was trying to get some details out about what he saw and stuff. And when I was there, he actually went to a filing cabinet and pulled out a big file of paper, and he showed it to me. And it actually was, I think, the coordinates he was given to look at on the moon and the corresponding sketches and feedback he had been collecting over the years since. So he had a big, feedback file on this. So that kind of indicates to me that, you know, he took it all very seriously. And it meant a lot to him. So I recommend, though, people who haven't read the book, I recommend you do get the newer version, because it has got that extra chapter, and I think you can get it on Kindle and ebook and the paper version as well. So that's pretty much it to start it off on the Ingo thing.
You know, can I just comment on that moon?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else has seen this, but I think I was watching like Ancient Aliens or something. And they were talking about not Ingo, but another man who was actually taken in a craft, a triangle craft, to the other side of the moon. And no, he was taken to Mars. This guy was a researcher, and he was sent to NASA, and he was shown pictures of a installation on the moon with large buildings on the other side of the moon.
Yeah.
Has anyone seen that? I think that was an Ancient Aliens. It might have been a YouTube video. I can't remember now.
I've seen similar stuff over the years. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of stuff out there, and there are lots of people that have made all kinds of claims of, you know, being taken to the moon, being taken to Mars, seeing structures on Mars and on the moon. You know, as we do as remote viewers, lots of photo analysts have seen stuff as well. Some astronauts have come forward and said they've seen some stuff.
Can I just say about the Mars guy? He said that he was taken as a child, and he was taken in a man-made triangular craft and told that he was going to be trained. He had a mission to save or help save humanity. He was taken to Mars for many years, And then he was returned as a child, the same. And that I found really fascinating.
There are quite a few stories like that. It's just that, you know, I'm an evidence person. I'd like to see some some background evidence on stuff like this. And there's a lot of stories like that I can't confirm or
so those would be the out there type stories. But traveling with remote viewing to Mars is a little more understandable.
Yeah,
you know,
and many of us have done it. There's probably 4 decades worth of remote viewing sessions out there. In fact, I'm trying to coordinate and get quite a few of them and make an issue of my magazine with a lot of them in, if I can collate enough of them. And make an issue solely dedicated to Mars and the Moon remote viewing data. I've got several sessions that people sent me so far. I've got a paper from Courtney Brown as well that he did on Mars a few years ago, a peer-reviewed paper that he's given permission to put in there. I just need a bit more content before I can do it. But yeah, there's loads. You know, I've done several Moon stuff over the years for different people. Probably about 10.
It looks like we might be able to verify some of this because we're getting closer to be able to travel there, you know, commercially even.
Yes.
And I mean, Elon Musk is talking about setting up a colony on Mars already. I mean, people are talking about mining asteroids. You guys know about all this, right?
Yeah. And cool. Elon Musk wants to have a Mars facility up and running by, I think, 2050, is it, or something?
Yeah, maybe even sooner. Exactly. Okay, yes. So I'm on the right page is all I'm trying, making sure.
Yeah, other than, you know, a lot of us have seen stuff on Mars and the Moon. And slowly over time, you know, over the decades, I've been able to piece some feedback on some of it. None of it's solid at this stage. But that's what happens with some of the esoteric remote viewing. You have to wait until enough feedback is possible for you to check. Yeah. But as I said, over 4 decades now, I've seen hundreds, I would say, of remote viewing sessions and remote viewers talking about, you know, seeing stuff on Moon and Mars, and it's all very similar data as well.
In Penetration, Daz, if I remember correctly, Ingo talks about 2 guards that were kind of, you know, his liaison through some of this stuff, took him to these places and stuff, and they had some strange qualities to them from what I remember. Did he ever tell you anything about that?
No, I didn't. Funnily, I didn't ask him. In the book, it's the 2, like, they look like twins, but they're not twins. He says, with green eyes, very military looking. No, I didn't. I don't think I asked him a question on that one. I just asked him if the penetration stuff was real, because a lot of people thought that it was a bit too fantastical. And he just acknowledged to me that it was very real, and if it felt fantastical when we were reading it, imagine how it must have felt for him going through it, was his reply. I mean, I wish I asked more really, but I kind of left it there on the penetration stuff, I think. Yeah. Other than when he showed me the Moon stuff that he'd been collecting. And I only wish that I had more foresight then, and a bit more, I don't know what the word would be, but I wish because I had a camera, and I wish I just photographed. Because I took some photographs of Ingo's place, but I just wish, you know, while he was, you know, like, for example, when he showed me all the papers of his sketches and the coordinates for the Moon and bits and pieces like that, I should have maybe tried taking pictures of it all, but it's you can't do it now because obviously Ingo's not with us. But if you were ever in the vicinity of Ingo, he wasn't the kind of person that you kind of messed around with, really. He was very in control of the situation. But I just wished I took more. Maybe. And I didn't. I took a tape recorder along on the day as well. And I was thinking to myself, I'm going to record the entire thing. But I didn't even do that.
I have a question about Ingo.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wonder, do you think that if Ingo was a hypnotist?
Not that I'm aware of, and I hadn't read anything about him. So
Because what you just said about him being very in control, that's definite quality of a hypnotist. And I have discovered personally, I don't know about you, and this is a question that I have, but there's a link between hypnosis and remote viewing.
there can be, and they did study it for a while, tried to use it within remote viewing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen some videos on it, and they were actually interesting. They were people channeling aliens in the one sense, and they were people doing healings, and they were seeing beings, entities on people and removing them, which was really quite interesting. And all of this under hypnosis. So I just wondered if this was something you guys were talking about or aware of or had thought of. And I'm just noticing now, as you say, that if Ingo was acting very in control, that would be a trait. I don't think it's necessarily proof, but that's evidence that he might have been a hypnotist. And that would be to protect himself, especially against entities that he might meet. He has to know how to keep control of his mind so he doesn't get his mind taken over and being controlled by these people. I'm sure he might have mentioned this to you. I don't know. Did he say anything about that kind of thing?
No, and I haven't seen it. You know, I've read his or I've read the majority of his paper files as well that were handed over to the University of West Georgia, and I haven't seen, not like I recollect, like I haven't seen anything about him learning or knowing.
Interesting, because he would have to protect himself, and he would have to know how, right?
I'll throw something out there. Ingo, most likely, first of all, yeah, I've never heard it mentioned anywhere, even in his online autobiography. He, by his training, his earlier training, would have had a heavy bias against hypnotism. You know, the group he trained with was adamant against it, despised it, and
well, I find that reassuring. I like that because I don't like hypnotists. Personally, I don't trust them. So yeah, okay, great. Excellent.
Well, there might be hypnotists here. I'm not speaking against the craft in and of itself. I'm just saying it would be an easy connection to say Ingo was anti-hypnotism.
Well, I guess because I've met hypnotists that I have found to be unethical in my experience, and that's why. Some of the hypnotists I've met, extremely unethical, and that's one of the reasons I've been looking for you guys. Because that's what I've been discovering is some people are possibly using things like this in unethical ways, and how to deal with that, and who to talk to about that. And
well, to be honest, there are, you know, I've been doing this now, remote viewing on its own, 24 years, and there are, you know, a number of people that act and work unethically within remote viewing, but there are within all psychic fields and all
true.
All service industries. You know, hire a plumber, and you know you could get an unethical plumber.
I know, but I mean the thing in my experience is I have just by chance I think met more unethical people, and I think that's why I found you guys too, because of that. I think the universe knows. You know, personally, I'm just going to put it out there. I think the universe knows that I need help with this, what I'm dealing with here. With
As I said, there are a lot of unethical people out there. You just, I tell everyone, you know, if you're looking for training or anything out there, don't rush into anything. Do your research. Read all the books. If you want to get training with a trainer, ask for testimonials, you know, ask for examples of the trainer's own remote viewing work. If they can't remote view themselves, is that, you know?
Well, what I'm finding, I have to tell you, is that I'm being approached by people who are not telling me. They're just not being forthcoming that this is what they're doing. And so you don't even get a chance to object to being remote viewed by these people. They just invade your psyche. And I mean, I didn't think I was going to be talking about this right away, but this is what I have discovered. And I just wonder what you think of that, because it's, I think it's infuriating. You know, it's upsetting.
It depends what you mean. I mean, are you talking about people that are just, you think are psychically looking at you or interfering?
Well, it's interesting because I've had different gradations of this. I'm finding it's like a trend among amateurs, so that I'll be on the subway and someone will be trying to sense me and I can feel it. And I'm like, what do you think you're doing? And, and I'll get up and I will walk away. People are, they're just sort of trying to practice this on you in the middle of the day. And they don't think that you can sense it. And most people probably can't, but I have become aware of it. And I, in fact, was approached a 1.5 years ago in public by someone who wanted to begin a friendship and even a relationship with me and began invading me in this way. Are you still there? Yeah, so I've been doing some research because I need to protect myself from people like this. So, strange, it's very strange, and I'm sorry.
I personally won't be able to help with any of this because,
yeah,
as my remote view instructor, none of this kind of stuff is. It doesn't exist as part of my remote viewing belief structure, so yeah. I can't help with any of that.
No, I'm really glad. I need to find people that are not involved with this, so this is perfect. That I can talk to you and let you know. I don't want to really talk about this a lot. I'd rather talk about what you guys want to talk about. I'm just letting you know where I'm coming from,
yeah, sure.
and what brought me here.
And that's what that's why we're here, is for people to have a chat and just discuss things. It's not about me talking and sharing all my stuff. It's for you guys to try to share yours as well.
And I think too, because I've talked with police about this, and the police are not aware, or they're acting like they're not aware. I am noticing that you are shocked and surprised. So obviously a lot of people are not aware of this. And that's what I've been discovering, that I'm finding out something that's going on that people are not aware of. So let's just leave it at that. We can talk about this right now. Like I say, I'm doing my research. And this is the point I've come to, and I'm glad to have found a group of people that are not doing this. So that's just really makes it helpful for me to be able to feel comfortable and safe. So I'm going to mute now and let you guys continue, but that's where I'm coming from. That's what's been happening to me.
Thanks for that.
Okay.
Richard here. Can I say something in relation to what that lady's speaking about?
Yep.
What that lady's speaking about is nothing to do with remote viewing. I'm trained with Lynn Buchanan and control remote viewing, but what she is talking about is the human body gives off an energy, your aura, your electromagnetic field. And we're sending out signals and we're receiving signals, and you will get a sense. It's like the ambience thing. When you walk into a different space, you feel something different. So when you're standing in the queue or at a bus stop or sitting on the tube, you would be getting information in, and it's coming in at the subconscious level. And it doesn't mean anybody is tracking you or trying to see through you. It's just a phenomenon that the body does all the time. But when you translate that into remote viewing, you can actually, the protocol for getting into your subconscious and all that, it can become a very powerful tool. But every one of us has that ability to walk down the street and pick up information. Most of us miss it because we're not tuned into it. Once you practice it, it's a natural phenomena. It's like when you walk into a room or meet somebody for the first time and you don't like them and you don't know why.
And you
get that sense, So
well, I just want to, can I respond? Yeah. I want to say, that is true a lot of the time. But this one individual was using hypnosis on me, covert hypnosis. And he was definitely breaking down my resist, telling me to sleep, commanding me, having me do actions, and calling me a toy. He called me a toy. Seriously. What a cool toy. She does anything I want. This guy was on some kind of ego trip, and he was using hypnosis and he was using remote viewing. So I just want you to know that there are people like this, and this happened to me, and I'm trying to find out if everyone's like this, and I'm thankful that I've discovered that not everyone who does remote viewing is doing this. That's why I'm saying the first people I've run into that are using these methods are not good people. So I'm glad to have found
I think the thing you'll find is we're all different, isn't it? You know, each one of us. So you know, no one exists in the same pot, and there's variations across the board. So you can have some comfort in that, I think. And the nice thing with this is, you know, we can talk about RV, and maybe I was listening to that thinking maybe this is like sort of remote influence, but you know, I think the other chap was right. Some of us are just more sensitive to what's going on around, and we can pick up on other people's thoughts. So it's interesting, and maybe you're just more sensitive.
Well, no, I'm not going to get into it. But what I've
As a lady said, you can harness that towards
I've
RV.
discovered that I've been a target for a number of years of people like this, and that my own father was using hypnosis. This is a abusive situation, and I really didn't want to get into it. But what I've got are people who are talented, who are practicing on me to see, you know, how far they can get, I suppose. And this particular individual was going to pass me around to his friends like a toy. And I had more people approaching me after him, and I could feel them approaching me. So this was really quite horrifying. And like I say, I've been talking with detectives about these people. So it's a bit of a special case. It's not, and it's something that I've given, I wouldn't just come here and plunk myself down and try to be saying this. I've done a lot of research. I've submitted written material on this.
You just have to be aware that what you're discussing really is more like possible classical psychic techniques, and is really not anything to do with what we call acid.
The guy called himself a Buddhist. He and his friends say they're Buddhists, you see.
Yeah, but it's not what we class as remote viewing as such.
No, it's not exactly. That's why I was asking about the connection between hypnosis and remote viewing, because I found it really.
There are some connections, and hypnosis has been involved, and it was involved in the original SRI studies in the remote viewing and stuff. But if I vaguely remember, they didn't find, if I remember back from the papers, that they didn't find that hypnosis helped.
No, you don't need it. I've discovered you don't need it, because I did some tests online, and I did some remote viewing exercises, and I really was surprised that I was able to do it without hypnosis. So because I've been a target for hypnotists, and they've been hypnotizing me in order to invade me psychically. So I didn't know if it was possible without hypnosis. I was kind of surprised, but I totally see how it works without hypnosis. And I immediately picked up on it, and naturally, because of the amount of times I've been approached by these other people, it seems to have made me.
Can I ask you why you're being targeted all the time? What makes you so special that people keep?
That was a question I had. I thought, this can't be happening because I am not that special. And I don't know. That's a question that I have, is why am I such a target? I think it might have a little bit to do with the fact that I'm a Christian, and that I have a strong Christian faith. And I think that these guys really hate that. They want to discredit and attack my faith. Unfortunately, that's what I think part of it is, because I think that they're involved in some kind of other kind of spirituality, right?
Possibly, but yeah, it's hard for us to say, because it's not really what what you may be going through as experiences isn't really anything to do with what we do as remote viewers, or anything that I don't think we can help you with, really.
Right. No, it probably isn't, but at least I can relate to you, and I found a group of people that I can relate to, because what's happened is with this stalking is I've been isolated and ostracized. I'm sure
through the group there are people that do practice the more classical psychic protection type techniques and stuff that may be able to help you. And if you ask for that within the Facebook community there, I'm sure we would be able to get someone that.
Well, right now I'm just taking my very first step. Okay. This is the first time I've really talked to anybody you know, seriously, I've talked to the police and been working on documenting exactly how I'm being attacked and the methods and techniques. I've been able to write down how these guys are doing this. And I've given this all to intelligence. So that's the point I'm at. The intelligence people are now taking a look at it. And I even had a detective say to me the other day, oh, I don't believe in hypnosis. You know, he just wants more information from me. Well, tell me about it. So I've been writing about, even lately, I'm finding that, okay, this is a method that terrorists
Can I just cut across you there? Can we move on to something else? Because I didn't listen to...
I'm also a bit wary as well,
yeah.
Deborah, that this conversation usually gets put on YouTube as well afterwards, and if it's a live case of yours and stuff, we shouldn't really be discussing
Oh,
it.
yeah. You know what? You're right about that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that I'm glad that I found a group of people that I can talk to about this, because that I can trust is what I'm looking for, people I can trust. I want you to trust me. I'm telling you the truth. And we don't have to talk about this on YouTube for sure. We can talk about it elsewhere.
Okay.
Alien bases. What'd you see over there, Daz? Anything in alien bases?
Over here. Well, in my early days of UFO research in the early 90s, I did spend quite a lot of time working with a guy in the UK here called Matthew Williams. I think he owns a website or a YouTube channel called Truth Seekers or something. And I'm quite lucky because as you guys might know, I live in a city called Bath, near Bristol, but it's very close to Wiltshire and Warminster, which in the 70s was very UFO centric. And right now it's, literally 20 minutes from me every summer is the heart of the crop circle kind of enigma. But in the 90s, I teamed up with this guy, Matthew Williams, and after we found out that a location on the outskirts of where I live in Bath here, an area called Redlow Manor, was the UFO kind of sorting house for the MOD for about 20 years. We went and started to investigate that. And we found that the whole of area just outside of where I live here and go many miles into the country is on top of a big mining system. And that's got all these government MOD facilities and stuff. And there is the Redlow Manor, which is this big manor house where they used to sort all these UFO reports, is actually linked up through mines and tunnel systems to all these other command facilities in the area. And in the 90s, rather stupidly, we went out in groups of us with video cameras and literally just almost like they do these crowd storming events, where people do things and then they like do dance events in subways. We pretty much did that. We had these people, we would just roll up in cars with loads of video cameras, and we would just stupidly just walk onto these government facilities. And yeah, and we got quite some good footage, and we did on time get carted off by the police and stuff and questions and stuff, but we got all that on tape. And yeah, underneath Redlow Manor and the area just outside of Bath here, there's an area called Box Mines, and there was all these rumors that if you go down deep enough into the mines, you'll go down into some systems where you come up against big metal doors and video cameras and all this kind of secret stuff. Of course, I never believed all that kind of stuff, but I did go along with Matthew on one of these forays into Box Mines area, which also leads to all these other underground storage facilities in the area of Corsham and Wiltshire and all this kind of stuff. So I went down in the mines with him one day, and I got all this. I actually got all this on video, and there's actually videos of me and the guys doing all this, what we call bunker busting stuff. And if you go down in these Bath mines and the Box Mines, you go down far enough, you do come to a big metal gate where the mines have been blocked off. Luckily, at some point, someone's cut through that with a big metal cutter. And I say big metal cutter, but it's essentially a really small hole you have to try to squeeze through. And if you squeeze through it, at that point, then you're actually on MOD land, but underneath ground. And you go far enough into the tunnels on the MOD land, and it does lead to big metal doors, and it does lead to video cameras in the mine systems there, looking to see what people do. Because I've seen them in the physical, and I've got video and picture footage of all that stuff down there. Not only that, I was invited in 2003 to a place called just down the road, Corsham Computer Centre, and that was in the 40s and 50s. That was a big government underground facility, but it was then converting into a facility where people put all their IT, all their servers and stuff. And because I had an internet company that I founded and made quite a bit of money with at the time, they invited me down to have a look, and it was all part of this Box Mines Rudlow kind of network of underground facilities. And it was a base that was leased off the MOD. And I went down there, and I was given a tour of that. And that place was so big. The tour I was going down, we were in like golf carts, and I'm not lying, they had roads, they had double-sided roads in the caverns underground. And as you were going through these roads from one cavern to another, you would stop off, and you'd get into a big cavern system, and there would be rooms where they had hundreds of, storage space for hundreds of bunks and toilets and cleaning and cooking facilities. You'd go to another area, and it would show you the ventilation system, and I'd walk into a pipe, and I'd be there, because I'm 5'10", but in front of me would be a big 20-foot massive fan system that would be used to pull the air and energy in. So I have seen, and I have been in some very strange MOD weird underground base command control centers. There's the whole of the area just outside where I live is littered with some very strange stuff, right in the central area of where all this UFO stuff's happening. So that's my closest to UFO possible type weird stuff in the UK. But I have been in it, and I have seen it and touched it physically, and it all does exist. Yeah. To answer your question.
Hey Des, this is Chris. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I'm relatively new to remote viewing. I think I started in August last year, and obviously Penetration was the first book I got. So I guess my question is, the title Penetration is a bit of a charge or a challenge to people. I always forget the quote, but I know Russell comes and puts it in for me, where Ingo says, we're to penetrate the alien phenomenon. I was wondering, are we doing that? I mean, I don't know if I'm not really doing that. I don't know if I'm doing it in a roundabout way, or not really actually doing anything other than practicing remote viewing. But I'm not really sure what that means. Is like if I'm supposed to be doing something, or if there's a group of people doing something. I mean, I don't know when you wrote that. Was it back in it's a couple decades old, but
yeah.
Is there any progress on that now? Penetrating?
It depends. I mean, how you approach it. I guess Courtney Brown and Farsight in their own way are doing all kinds of penetration into the potential or possible human non-human kind of interaction thing. I don't think there are any other groups that are doing any kind of set projects or have a set agenda to do that. I do know that within crypto viewing, myself, Dick, and Edward, the last 6 months ago, I've come across some. What's best to say? Some indicators or hints that some of the stuff we're going through as a global agenda change thing might have some kind of non-human influence or in some way.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I don't know anyone formal that's doing anything other than the recent stuff where you've got that I can't remember the guy's name. He's just in that Russell the CE5 video where he claims he's doing remote viewing and they're trying to
Stephen Greer. Hey, can I throw something at Chris real quick?
Go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that quote, yeah, Ingo does say at least one use of remote viewing would be, as he puts it, to penetrate the ET scenario. And they know this. They know that we could expose them. Lynn Buchanan highlights that when he talks about their kind of telepathy perhaps having some limitation on its range, whereas we, for whatever reason, can see across the universe. So in terms of asking what somebody's doing or feeling like you're not doing anything, you know, I've been at remote viewing primarily as a study for about 10 years, and then for the last 3 years under pretty intense training with Paul. And I have never done an esoteric target, ever. I have no intention to do one until my CRV fundamentals are fundamental. In other words, until I have the foundation, I have no interest in putting my self in those interactions. But looking over the course of remote viewing, I don't think there's any other group of people who have done more to substantiate and penetrate the ET scenario than remote viewers collectively. The primary example that always astounds me is Hal Puthoff himself. You know, he got those papers from Pat Price in 1973. This many years later, 40 or 50, however many years it is, I don't want to have to count on my fingers and embarrass myself, into his 80s. I mean, the man is in his 80s. He's not financially hurting. You know, he's got his laser patents. His entire life is dedicated to this exposure. And when I had a nice brief opportunity to speak with him in the 2018 IRVA, one of the things that they're planning on doing is creating a global app where if somebody says, oh, there's a UFO, starts recording it with their phone, they can notify the whole network.
I don't
so
have
that,
it.
so that if a bunch of people are in the area, they can also turn on their phone and maybe get, you know, different angles on this thing. So I asked him there at the table where we were sitting, it sounds like you're trying to flip the script on them. They've been skulking around in the dark. We can't optically see them under, you know, most conditions. And now it's like you want to say to them, we see you. And he just looked at me and he said, yes, precisely. So what each of us is individually doing may not matter as much as the collective. Like I said, I'm not going to put myself into esoteric sessions until I'm, you know, until I can accurately describe a 40-story building. Why, if I'm still missing a 40-story building, why would I want to be getting into these, you know, subtle perceptions and possibly the effects of deception or whatever, counter influence? So I wouldn't feel bad. I would just go hard at the fundamentals. When I finish my advanced certificate, maybe at that point, I'll pick up with somebody that's more experienced and maybe learn a little bit. But it's definitely not something to rush into. But the collective expose on the ET agenda done by remote viewing is huge. When you look at the whole background, all the moon sessions Daz has talked about, Farsight has made their contribution, you know. So I think it's more what we're doing as a group than what any individual one of us is doing. And some of us may just simply not have the inclination or even the knack for that. So I wouldn't heap any pressure on oneself thinking you should be, you know, getting involved in the ET issue. There's a lot of safety aspects, I believe, as Daz has pointed out, numerous other things. So just to say, I've never done one and I don't intend to until I have some proper fundamentals and some proper training. So hopefully that'll take some pressure off you there.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Yeah, it's not something I was really trying to do myself, but I was kind of curious if other people were kind of taking that. I know that, like, maybe that you mentioned Hal Puthoff, and I know that To the Stars Academy. I don't know a whole lot about their operation, but it almost sounds like they're kind of poking around in a roundabout way.
Chris, I don't know if you saw one of the previous talks, or the talk I had with Deborah Cass, because I was approached by to the Stars Academy to work for them on a remote viewing project, which we did actually do. Did you see any details of that?
You know, I didn't. I've kind of just dealing with work lately. But yeah, I think I missed that one. That sounds interesting though.
Yeah, rather than me go through it again now. It's probably best if you on the remote view channel I got on YouTube. There's an interview of me interviewing Deborah Lynn Katz, and it's probably best you have a look at that really, because we do talk about it a little bit. Because what I did is once because I actually spoke to what's the guy's name, Tom I can't remember his name, Tom. Anyway, he's the
Tom DeLong.
Tom
Yeah.
DeLong.
Tom DeLong, yeah.
Yeah, the pop star guy. Yeah, so I spoke to him quite a lot, and he wanted us to do a project. And then, the moment I knew he wanted a project, I wanted to work the project. So I got Deborah involved at that stage to be the project manager. And essentially, 10 of us, 10 remote viewers worked. I was kind of partially informed because I knew who the client was, but I didn't know what the target was. But 10 of us worked a target for him and the TTS team, and it turned out to be they wanted us to look at a potential UFO meeting event they might have at some point in the future with some kind of being entity thing. All I can tell you is all 10 remote viewers got very similar data, very in-depth, hardcore data. It's a shame I can't show you it because they haven't told me it's client proprietary information, but they did pay for it. They did pay us as a project, so I probably can't show it now and put it in public. And they didn't tell us we couldn't talk about it. And we have told people now, so. Yeah, essentially, we passed them the information. I do know that How Put Off and the rest of the team had access to it, and they all saw it as well. But I don't know what they thought about it. But whenever I work a project, I have this proviso that if I don't provide you information, you don't pay. And Tom knew this, but he paid us all. So I'm assuming that he was happy enough with the information. So, has anyone got any questions or anything you want to discuss or share at the moment?
The sessions with McMonagle that was posted recently in the group.
The Mars ones?
No. Well, I thought they were a base. I can't remember where because there was a lot of chat. I don't know if it was Shasta or something.
Yeah.
Did you ever hit that target? Was that? I mean, what do you get out of that? It seems to be a lot of sessions where there's some underground bases with ETs. And I'm just curious as to what you think they're doing down there. I mean, I'm assuming you're getting the same kind of data.
I've done other stuff. I've never been targeted on any of the ones that were in that project myself. But I have investigated. I have spent quite a number of years before I was into remote viewing investigating. Well, UFO stuff, and talking about. You can't see it actually, but I got a book here that I'm just rereading. Cosmic Top Secret, which is a stunning book about whistleblowers talking about how they built and what they've seen at some of these underground facilities.
Oh, watch the movie. I'm gonna shut it off.
Sorry?
Sorry, it was me. I was talking. It was
All right.
irrelevant to this.
So RV wise, I've only been to 2, I think, on the Earth. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, RV wise, I've only been to 2 on the Earth, and they were both looking at Area 51. And I've shared the session, and again I've shared the sessions of that. I put the live whiteboard sessions and my paper sessions for that up online if anyone wants to view those. They're on the on my YouTube and my website. But I did that a couple of weeks ago. I haven't looked at any of the ones in that other project. It'd be nice to do, but again, as a remote viewer, I can't set my own targets. So I have to wait for someone else to do that for me. Yeah, but other than that, I have collected huge amounts of research over the years, and like in this book alone, and this book was out way in the early 80s. It's got a map of the alleged facilities in this. And this is what people were discussing in the 80s. Let me see. I probably can show it you if I turn the background thing off a second here. Bear with me a second here. Let's stop the virtual background so I can show you this. So, and this is what they were thinking they knew back in the 80s. And that's a map there in the 80s of the underground facilities that they knew. I'm not saying all these are alien or non-human entity, but these are facilities that people were investing that were being built way back in the 80s. The primary one I looked up back then in all the research, and the one that everyone was talking about, was the Area 51 one, and I don't know if you heard about it, but there's one in Dulce, New Mexico, which is meant to be quite an interesting one with lots of whistleblowers come out of it. And from all of them, to be honest, if you really do your research, there are people that have come forward. You know, it's hard to verify all their credentials, but there are numbers of people that have come forward with rock solid backgrounds in building and demolition stuff that have detailed how they've been employed by certain parts of certain governments to build these underground facilities. And you know, some of them do describe these strange things and these strange beings and stuff that they have seen in all these different underground facilities. So they do exist. It's just, yeah, where and what are they exactly?
Daz, can I just say, we were talking about on Facebook, I was talking about someone who had viewed something underground, under a mountain, and it looked like a computer to me. I was commenting and saying that it looks to me like a quantum computer. And I have a picture, I showed a picture of the chip, the D-Wave chip. Have you heard of this computer that's being built in British Columbia, Canada? So there's a chip, the D-Wave, and it's a quantum chip, and it's being open sourced for people to write software. So you can see it. It's a grid, just like the vision of the remote viewer. And then he saw another structure with an umbrella, and it looks to me like it could be a transportation, like a teleportation device. And I mean, they're teleporting photons, you know, in the Canary Islands. So this, I thought, could be a teleportation device. And I mean, that's what I think, if you're doing something underground, that would be totally logical. Way to hide something like that. And it's very extremely advanced and sophisticated. And yet we're approaching it now, you know, in sort of the modern, in our world, we've got someone building this now. So it seems plausible to me, this could actually be what this thing is. Oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry.
I can't hear you. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, there's lots going on, and I don't know if you guys have looked into this as well, but there was when was this? Around about 95 onwards, there were some videos and stuff that came out about a facility on the edge of Long Island, New York, Montauk.
Long Island. Oh, Montauk.
Yes.
Montauk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's quite interesting as well. If you can track down the original videos of discussions with, I think he's dead now, a guy called Preston Nichols and is it Arbedic? It might have been. There are two or three of them anyway, and there are some great videos of them, what they're describing them. Some of it's a bit off the wall, but some of it's got some hints that kind of match what I've heard from other witnesses that have come forward as well. So that's always intrigued me. Of course, all that's got very hardcore roots in the possibility of the Philadelphia experiment, or the alleged Philadelphia experiment, and time travel and remote viewing and psychic kids and all that kind of weirdness. But yeah, the base stuff is prevalent within UFO lore now, but only since the 90s. So keep that in mind as well, because there's a major possibility that the major proportion of it is just disinformation, to be honest. That's always the case within UFO research, and also now within remote viewing research as well. elements of disinformation as well, I would say. But yeah, the alien connection thing is, you know, it's there. Some people want to distance remote viewing from the alien stuff, but it's pretty hard to when the entire history of remote viewing goes back to and incorporated them looking at alien stuff. And it's not just that, you know, Howard Puthoff, one of the guys that kind of helped invent remote viewing, and you know, he was because I tracked the UFO research at the same time. At the very end of him leaving the remote viewing unit, he also did all this secret stuff where he worked for this, what they call the secret UFO working group, which was reported in a book by, I think, Harold Blum or someone. And Howard Puthoff and a few people were in this Pentagon UFO secret working group. Of course, Howard Puthoff's now working on 0 point energy, which is allegedly the possible propulsion system of some of these UFO craft, and he's also working for TTS as well. So you know, it's very hard to distance remote viewing from ETs, alien, non-physical life forms, and all that kind of stuff, because it literally just go hand in hand. There's no way to separate it, really.
Well, that's what John Vivanco says. He says, someone asked him directly on a video about ET, because he said, well, we started remote viewing for verifiable targets, and then we kept bumping into ET. They just kept showing up, and we couldn't avoid them, he said. And I thought, well, you know, you can't argue with that. It's not your fault. You're not looking for them, right? And like I said, I've never had any approach me. And sort of that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I mean, if you're doing remote viewing, you may or may not see strange things. It seems to me to be what the rule is. And maybe it's what you're open to. John himself seems to be an individual that these things are looking to contact, you know, in a big way. They just seem to follow him everywhere. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. It's like sometimes you don't have a choice. No matter what you're remote viewing, it seems, he said, that you're going to see these things. He even talks about an entity that was protecting a target that they couldn't get to because of the disinformation they were getting from this, what I would call a lying spirit or a lying ET. You know, and he described it, you know, in detail, this thing, and how sometimes you can't get past these entities. I mean, is that something you've ever...
Well, I've done many targets looking at, you know, UFO events like Roswell and Phoenix Lights and Area 51 and lots of others for people like Courtney Brown and a few others. And Courtney seems to think that when we were doing that we had some kind of blockage stopping us seeing things. I'm not a prescriber of the same score as he is. So I don't know. And I don't think I've ever had any problems of when I'm going to any of these targets, seeing non-human life forms or even communicating in some format with them. But you know, I think with everything within remote viewing and everything within psychic stuff, and you bring to the party what you have as an individual. And I've had in the past in several remote viewing groups, I've had some altercations, shall we say, with some people over belief structures, because I don't have the same belief structures as them, and yeah, and even on the Facebook group, you know, we had one. I won't name the person, but we had one female woman at some point have a right go because she did one of the targets that I got on my Target Monkey site, and it was a target that I think may have had some people die in it because it was some kind of world event or something. And she said that, you know, that negatively affected her because of her belief system and all that kind of stuff. But me as a remote viewer, in the way I'm trained with CRV, I don't believe, because I don't believe we go into any targets or anything. And there is no travel, you know. So I don't believe that there's no way that it can negatively affect me. But I understand that if you are a person that believes that aliens can hurt you or people can hurt you or you can get psychically attacked, then because you believe that...
well, wait, just a minute. What I'm talking about is it's more like the real world. You know, you get people, even just human people, that can approach you with evil intentions and lie to you. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's about and whether you go to the place psychically, physically, I think that's a bit magical thinking on her part, that something could affect her, because it's just like as if someone walks up to you on the street. They can affect you if you let them. But if you don't, then
that's what it is, isn't it? If you believe something will affect your, and the same with other things as well. There are viewers out there that build their own pitfalls. You know, they believe that if they believe, for example, I've seen rumors and people talk about you can't have a coffee before remote viewing because the caffeine will stop you, blah blah blah, and you have to, and they build up their own rituals to almost hinder what they do.
What works for them,
but for me, none of that exists, because it's just all ritualistic behavior.
Exactly, I agree with you on that. Yeah, because it's such a pure thing. The RV itself is very pure, and you need to strip away all that stuff, really. It's better to not have all that when you want the truth. And that's exactly what I was saying. One of the last things I was commenting on just today. I think the intention to find out what's true is really important. And I was watching a video of one of the trainers of RV, and he was saying that when we discovered that we would have an intentional statement for the group, we were a lot more productive when they all worked together with the same intention. I think that's important. You know, that's where I would like, if I'm going to do this kind of thing, I would like to be on that page, you know, looking for what's true. Simple, right? Really simple.
Just want to say hello to the new people that just popped into the room. How are you? And who else? Who was there? See, Darby's there. For those of you who don't know, Darby is one of my first students. Finished CRV training several months ago now, didn't you?
Absolutely.
He did a year's online CRV training with me. I only train a couple of people a year, and Darby finished his training, and then he did so well that crypto viewing pretty much hired him straight off the bat, and you went straight into paid remote viewing work, didn't you?
That's right. It's been a real blast.
So yes, so as a guide for those people that are learning or wanting to learn, that's a good example, really. Darby put in a year's worth of effort. We trained. I think you did over 100 remote viewing targets with me in CRV. I felt he was good enough to pass, and he does great work. And literally, as soon as he passed, we hired him as a remote viewer to work on remote viewing projects. So it's probably helped pay for the training.
Absolutely did.
So yeah, for the rest of you guys, that are trying to do this kind of stuff, that just goes to show you can do it. You just have to put in the effort, the work, and you'll get there in the end. Letting someone else in here. So any other what's some questions? I've got some questions here in the chat window. Let me have a look and see what these are. Has anyone remote viewed the Atlas Comet? I haven't, not yet. I haven't seen anyone do it either online. But if any of you guys want to do it, it'd be great to add to the Facebook page. Another question here. McMonigal and Ed May experimented with increasing target entropy by having Outbinder explode something at a target site. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, and I think that's an earlier question as well. Someone asking about entropy at target sites. I can't find it now. But yeah, what they found is part of remote viewing is targets with more entropy, which is change in movement and energy, seem to make better targets for remote viewers, which is why targets with a lot of water in it seem to be quite big distractors or attractors as targets. Is there a way to increase the entropy of lottery numbers? Well, that's a good question.
Yes.
And what I experimented with these. Bear with me a second. Let me see if I can just grab them for you. On lottery numbers. Now I might have to turn the background off for you to see these. Oh. And these work quite well for me. I had some good response with these, and I don't know why I stopped. Bear with me a sec while I turn my background off so you can see these. Okay. Now, as we know, numbers are hard because they don't have any tangibility. If you're trying as a CRV remote viewer, if you're trying to describe, for example, a number 2 in a trying to get the lottery numbers, it's very hard to talk about the taste, the texture, the smell, the feeling of what a number 2 is. So what I got these kids magnetic numbers, and they literally are physical numbers with shapes, colors, textures. And what I did is you can essentially make all the lottery numbers from the digits 0 to 9. So I made sure I got a collection of these, and I made sure that every number that I got that I wanted to remote view as a set for lottery numbers, they were all different, so the 8 would be pink and the 2 would be orange, so that the colors would never be the same for any of the 10 digits that I got. And I tried using these and using it in such a way that I was trying to remote view the feedback that I would give myself as physical letters. And so after I got the feedback from the lottery numbers when they were announced, I would actually make up the combination, because there's always 2 digits, like 0, 1, then it's like 21 and 33, that kind of thing. I would literally just arrange these letters as feedback for myself, as physical numbers on the table, and spend a couple of minutes looking at each one to
I have a comment about lottery numbers, because I saw a video about this. I don't know if anyone else has seen it. And it was a teacher saying, yeah, you can win the lottery, but you have to start with one number. And then once you get consistent with 1, then you go to 2 numbers, and you get consistent with 2, and you work your way up till you're consistent and you win. And this is the way he does it. So I don't know if how that works with Entropy, but
it would make
that's
sense.
more.
It would make sense.
Yeah.
It's not worth straight off the bat trying to do, like I was doing the Euro millions, and that's like I can't remember, seven numbers.
7 numbers, which is like
well, some of the numbers goes up to 50 and stuff, so that makes quite a long combination.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, but the best way probably to do any of that kind of thing, if anyone wanted to do a lottery project, is to get 5 really good remote viewers together, and each of you only have to do 1 2-digit number. That would be the easiest way to do it. Not so that not all of you are going for all 10 digits or 10 or 14 digits. I think it might be. It might be 14 on the Euro millions, which is quite hard to do. More questions here. Sounds track attached to numbers. That might work for some people. I don't know if it would work for me. Because we're all different, you see. You bring your own individual skills to remote viewing. So whatever you're good at within your database, then it shows you consistency you're good at. Maybe use that as your focus. If you're good at colors, maybe use the letters like I did with colors. If you're good with sounds, maybe use that. How about having a person reading the winning numbers and then doing things to increase entropy? Yeah, I have heard people doing things whereas on targets with ARV, when they got the target information come back, they would do something really to add entropy to it. Like they would drop a plate or a pan from a great height, so it would make a big crashing sound. So to give them something extra to focus upon. I haven't tried anything like that myself, but again, yeah, it might increase some entropy and give a bit more motion and energy to the numbers.
Taz?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right.
About lottery numbers, how would you get over the problem, whichever way you did it, that when you get to the double numbers, say 23, 2, 3, that it's not actually 32? You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, what I did when I did the lottery numbers is I keep myself in doing it. So I would say I knew that unlike the normal UK standard lottery on like a Wednesday night, I think it's I think it's 7 sets of double digits, isn't it? I think. I can't remember now. It used to be anyway. And so what I used to do is I used to say to myself, okay, I want to get these numbers. I used to key myself on the sheet of paper, write the first double digit number that's going to be the winning lottery number, that in sequence.
Uh-huh.
So you know, if the first one I wrote down was something like a 10, I knew that the next time I did the next one on the page, the next number in sequence, it wouldn't be below 10, it would be above 10.
Right. Yes, I'm with you. Yeah.
And
A command, really.
Yeah, I would command myself to always write the numbers as they would finally appear in numerical sequence.
Yeah. Thanks.
It does.
Yeah.
I found that I got better results on the lottery when I left a considerable amount of time between choosing each single digit. Instead of trying to choose or view the whole set of numbers.
Yeah.
I found that I got too much interference. Then I thought about, I don't know why I thought about it, the double slit experiment, you know, where the particles were fired through the single slit. And then the double slit, there was an interference pattern. So in my line of thinking, I wondered, because I don't know where this information is coming from, but whether I chose to apply what I saw in the double slit, split the time into, say, once every 15 minutes, and then I would view another digit. And I found, although I never won the whole lot, obviously, I did find that my winnings did increase considerably, providing I left a significant amount of time between each digit. That's just my experience.
Yeah, that might make good sense. And to be honest, when I've tried it, most of the times I'm sat there for literally 20 minutes because I don't spend much time on it, and I haven't done it for a long time. Is you're trying to do all of them, of course. You know, when I'm trying to do Euro Millions, and I think it is 7 2-digit numbers. You know, that's quite a lot of digits you're trying to get all at once. So yeah, I think leaving a gap like that might be good, or maybe just trying to do, you know, doing it so far in advance. So you're trying to do next, you know, a date next month, and maybe just literally do one single digit of a 2-digit number a day or something.
Yeah.
Give yourself.
Can I just add something to confirm that? So from left field, because when I got into tarot cards for a while, I had a friend who was a tarot card reader. And so I bought a set of cards and I started doing readings for myself. And I would do just reading after reading after reading, just practicing getting to know the cards. And I found something very interesting. I found that I kept getting the same reading, like over and over. The readings wouldn't change, even when I shuffled the cards, you know, and until like I'd leave the cards and wait a week, and then they would start to change. So I think there's something to what you're saying. You sort of have to wait until like the universe makes a decision, or the decision registers or something. I don't know what it is. The wave collapses and you get your information, you know. There's something to what you're saying. I would have to agree. I found that with the tarot cards, a pattern.
Nothing's set in what any of us doing with remote viewing. You have to find your own pattern, really, and way of doing things, because we're all slightly different on this. Yeah, definitely. What we got here? We got any more questions? So someone was here saying on the pick 3 here in the USA, yeah, they use 1 for being a bell ring, 2 for being a dog barking. Sounds, yeah, if sounds work for you, then go for it. Another question here: has anyone tried to remote view sound? I gave someone "Welcome to the Jungle" as a target, and the results were interesting. I haven't. Have I remote view sound? I haven't. No, I haven't had it as a set target. But I have obviously picked up sounds or targets, even though it's not really a sound. It's just I don't hear the sounds. I just have a feeling of a sound. What are questions we got here? That's it really on that, I think, for now. So anyone else got any questions or anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, hi Des. I have a question. So in lots of Ingo's books, he goes in quite a bit of depth about word definitions. It's like he's really like constructing his own belief system. I wonder, like, did you talk to him about this? Because he takes like a lot of time and space to really dive deep into this.
We didn't talk a lot about it specifically, but yeah, I keep talking about Ingo as being in the present. He was very keen on the words and definitions and boxings and labels. A lot of his books are very in about labels and being negative. That's why he never liked to refer to himself as a psychic, because after you do enough research into the history of being psychic, it comes with a lot of baggage, and it comes with a lot of negativity that happened over eons now. Your psychic's been hunted down and burnt and all kinds of stuff at the stake. So he was very keen on trying to create a whole new language for it. I think he did with remote viewing in general, and in his CRV, is Ingo's CRV approach that he taught to Paul H. Smith and the military guys, is trying to remove all the previous millennia of negativity and labeling towards this psychic phenomenon, and give it this new kind of freshness, I think. And I think that still exists today. Other than, I would probably like to see some of the military connotations removed from it right now. And I think Prudence Calabrese had a genius idea about going about it with her remote viewing approach. She did a technique called trans-dimensional systems. And I think it gave a real kind of female-centric approach to it, whereas she took away the harshness from it all, I think, and I think that would work quite well. I think, I use the language myself, like I always call projects targets and trying to hit targets, and it's very male and very brutish and bullish and kind of direct, that I think just talking about things as being targets and trying to hit targets and stuff like that might be trying to take, or might have influenced remote viewing in a certain way, which might not be as beneficial if you use a different language. So language, I think, is very important, and Ingo was very keen on that. But I didn't have a specific discussion with him, other than, did I? No, just on the construction of CRV, really, and why CRV was called CRV and stuff like that. But nothing specific other than that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, because he has a book about reality boxes.
Yes, yeah.
It's a whole book about the concept.
Yeah.
Which is more about definitions, about what it is, and how it shapes your worldview.
There's a newer book as well. I haven't got it here by the side of me. It's not released yet, but I've got a copy of it because I designed the cover for it. I got it downstairs. I was reading it today. And it's 2 books in one. It's literally as thick. So it's 2 unpublished manuscripts that they found in his files that they just put out. That goes in depth into all this as well, in definitions and labels and boxes. Very insightful stuff, that is. So if you're into that, when this book gets released in a few months, you'll thoroughly enjoy that.
That brings up a question. My understanding, from what I recall, I heard an interview from an individual. I want to say he was a Rolling Stones photographer, and I thought he was going to do a documentary on Ingo.
Yeah, that's Robert Knight.
Did anything ever come of that?
Well,
enough said.
I don't know how much I can say in public, but I will show you something, actually, because I got this here. Let me stop my background a minute so you can see this, because this is actually a gift from Robert Knight, and yeah, so this is a fantastic signed picture of Ingo there in his. Sorry about the reflection there.
I got it. That's nice.
Yeah, and that's from Robert Knight, the photographer. What can I say about the program? There was several thousand hours of footage, and Yes, so there's 1,000 hours of footage, and there's some really amazing footage of Tom McNair, who did his first remote viewing session in, I think, 20 odd years, live on camera, for everyone to see as well. They also had loads of footage that they got where they were invited into the CIA and the DIA, and they went in there and they interviewed the top people there. So they got absolutely stunning footage, thousands and thousands of hours of it. Strangely, Ingo wouldn't allow anyone that currently taught CRV for money to appear in the documentary about his life. So make of that what you want. I have my thoughts on why he didn't want that to happen. So he demanded that anyone that was teaching CRV currently were not allowed in the documentary. The last I heard, Robert Knight was going to put out a documentary because they put out a clip. I can't remember what it was called, but him and his wife put out a clip, a preview of it. But
can I ask a question about the documentary and what was allowed in it? Do you think that was really his decision, or did somebody else make that decision?
No, it was definitely his decision.
His decision? Okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't talk about that in public. My thoughts of why that was. But yeah, he made that choice. But I think the last I heard, Robert Knight's, and I can't go into the details of this, but essentially the Ingo Swann estate now has all the footage off of Robert Knight, and I don't know if it's going to come out. Actually, I could ask them because I'm in touch with the estate all the time. In fact, they gave me a gift just this last couple of weeks, which I may show you next time we have a talk. It's fantastic. They gave me because I've been helping them out with covers and bits and pieces. Ingo on the walls of his apartment, he used to have these ornate kind of cow horn type things, and he used to absolutely love these cow horn type things. And his niece Eddie sent me. I got them downstairs. I got these big, huge. To be honest, I don't know where I'm going to put them. My wife's going crazy. She's like, "Oh, do you have to put that up on the wall?" I got these massive cow horns with like ornate, with all like sparky bits on it and stuff. And it came from one of Ingo's bedrooms. But it's one of the things when you get a gift in one of Ingo's, it's not something you want to chuck away. But at the same time, I'm thinking, where am I going to put this? But yeah, the documentary, I would love to see it. I've been told in depth. I had a great 2-hour conversation with Robert Knight about all the stuff that was in it, and he went into in depth of where they filmed in the CIA, all the people they approached, all the top people that were in it, and he was detailing all absolutely fantastic stuff. And he said there's literally thousands of hours of it. I don't know at this stage, to be honest, because we're talking 4 or 5 years now. I don't know if it'll ever reach the light of day. I hope so, because it would be amazing. I did hear that Ingo was very specific on the route he wanted the documentary to take, and it was going to be about him only and his life story, and just about Ingo. But I did hear that possibly some of the other people involved wanted it to take a more generic, let's have a history of remote viewing documentary, and I don't know if there's any conflict in that or anything, but I would love to see it. And if the Ingo estate see this, and maybe I should ask them. I haven't asked them for a long time if it's going to be released. I do know there's an autobiography book being written at the moment, which should be pretty fantastic.
Something to look forward to for sure.
Yeah, that should be good, and it's by can I say who it's by? I think so. I have
a question.
By Nick Cook, the guy that wrote if you've seen it, a book, a really amazing book. I really recommend this. It's called The Hunt for 0 Point. Absolutely fantastic book, and that book is amazing because what it details is, and it's got people like How Putoff in there and stuff. What it actually details is how the American and other militaries from the 50s onwards have been doing secret research into anti-gravity craft, and he even goes right back to where the Americans and the Russians actually grabbed pretty much the genesis of all this anti-gravity craft off of the Nazis in World War II, and then as parts of Project Paperclip and a few others transported it to to the US and to Russia, and he tracks it right down to places like Lockheed and places like that. So it's absolutely fantastic.
It's funny. I was CNN at my in-laws' house, and I'm going back maybe over 5 years, and I remember seeing how I think he was working. I don't know if it was Lockheed or Boeing, but it was on 0-point field. And I had to do a double take, because to see him on mainstream television talking about 0-point field after knowing all of his history, it was very fascinating. So I'm gonna look that up. You said it was a search for the 0-point field?
It's called The Hunt. The book's called The Hunt for 0 Point by Nick Cook. And it's literally, it reads like a work of, it's like it's like a mystery novel. He starts off with someone leaves a package for him on his desk, because his old job was writing for Jane's Defense Weekly. So someone left a package on his with a few kind of hints of something he should follow, and then he spent the next 10 years following it up, and it took him on this massive journey of dark secrets, which led to the Nazis and all. And essentially, if the evidence is right, it looks like at the end of World War II, if it had gone on a few months longer, the Nazis would have had a flying anti-gravity craft, and they also would have had, or they were very close to having working nuclear weapons as well, which is quite scary.
So is that all part of the history of RV, this documentary that you're talking about?
The documentary we were talking about with Ingo, yes. But the book I'm just talking about now, The Hunt for that kind of has a solid. It's not really remote viewing history, but it has connections to remote viewing.
Well, I wanted to ask one more question about the remote viewing history documentary you're saying that might come out, but you're not sure?
Yes.
So I'm just wondering, did he produce that himself, or did he have a production company working with him on that?
There was a production company from the photographer Robert Knight. Him and his wife had a production company with some investors that paid for it and owned the footage.
Robert Knight production company and investors. Okay. Because I hate to do this, but I'm going to throw it back. The idea that was it his decision not to have the paid remote viewing teachers? Because that is coming at me again, asking you to push you on that. But anyways, I'm curious about that.
It was definitely Ingo's decision. He was and I've got it all on. I've got the conversation on tape. He was adamant that they were not to be allowed in the documentary about his life, which is strange, seeming as a couple of them he trained himself. So yes,
that's what I'm finding so incongruent. It always makes me ask a question when there's something like that.
There's a big question mark on that one.
I was going to say something. I don't know who the person behind Freak that asked about the language.
Yeah. It's Frederick.
Okay, Frederick. Hi, Russell. Have you read Ingo's books, The Secrets of Power?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, yeah, in Secrets of Power, Volume 2, he has those 2 chapters on the importance of language. And so when he did those word studies, he always used etymology to get to the original meaning. So I actually got hooked on that. And there's a great website, etymology.com. I can't remember the actual address. But you look in, say 1300, the word meant one thing, then 1500, and then 1800, and then 1995. And the meaning, in some cases, has literally almost become the opposite of what it was originally. So as part of some of his prior studies, they had to do hundreds and hundreds of hours of what they called word clearing, where you would go into a word, go through a bunch of processes to see all of the associations you personally had with that word, and then try to get to a point that they kind of refer to as a clean slate. What did that word originally mean? And then even certain words will trace all the way back to just fundamental Sanskrit sounds. So the reason he did that was so that you could get a clear concept of the word rather than a sound with a bunch of things stuck to it.
Yeah, and I also wondered about the Sanskrit language. I mean, they have like enormous libraries of volumes of books, and they also were like very much into mental states. So they have words for mental states that we don't really know what they mean.
Correct. There was one word I was looking up in Sanskrit where to describe it in English was like 5 paragraphs. Just one symbol. So that language originally started out just as a language of vibration, and then it eventually got put into, text, if you will, or figures. But yeah, I mean, when I looked through it, there was this one word, and it was a word for like a kind of a combination of enlightenment, liberation, but it was 5 paragraphs in English to define just that one sound. So anyways, yeah, if you've already looked at those secrets of power, and he talks about how the manipulation of language was perhaps intentional to disempower us over the course of history.
Yeah.
And also then the lack of certain words for psychic phenomena and other things, where they didn't give us words for key elements or attributes of ourselves. So in that sense, because there's no word for it, it remains unknown. So he seems to imply that some of that over time was intentional to disempower the human race for whatever reason.
Russell, quick question on what you just said. And this has popped into my mind last week also. I'm curious, I'm ignorant, so it's just an open-ended question, but some of the terminology that you mentioned, like clearing, for instance, it resonates with what I've researched with Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if there's any relation, and it's also a question to anyone in the group, about Scientology and terminology and the literature related to it.
Let me put this, actually, that is actually kind of my historical study specialty, but it's a deep rabbit hole, and probably this talk isn't gonna address it at any level. There's definitely a connection. So maybe Daz could write down like a future note if there were enough interest. One of these Friday topics could be that. I've been involved with it, not as an organization. Well, in the early 80s, I was a Scientologist. So Ingo also had participation in that group. There's a big history. So I've actually been working at this since like 82. Well, I left that group in 83. But ask Daz, have him put it on a list, because right now, I mean, literally, it could take the conversation right down the tubes. The whole topic in itself.
Yeah.
So if Daz grants another Friday for that, I'd be happy to say a few things then.
Thank you for that. And I'm a big fan of Aleister Crowley, which is sort of a friend of his, if you will, to Scientology. Yeah. Thank you.
Also too, if you have really specific things, you can private message me, or if you want to have a one-on-one chat, because there might be a lot of stuff the collective group here isn't interested in. But I'll just say this and leave it at that. I trained up through the exact same levels that Ingo was trained through. So when I talk about it, it's also inside experience. I mean, I'm not just looking at it from the outside. So I went through all of the training up through their quote unquote secret levels, which by the way are not secret at all. There's nothing there. Don't worry about it. But I'm definitely willing to go one-on-one and chat it up with you on that too.
Thank you. Yeah, and I have training with ESP and Landmark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mean est?
Say that again?
You mean est, E-S-T as in Tom?
I unless I'm mistaken, I have the book, but I think it was it EST or ESP?
Yeah, Werner Erhard dropped out of Scientology.
Yeah, Erhard.
And he started Erhard seminar training. And then when Scientology attacked him and drove him out of the country, he gave it to his children, but the children had to change the name to Landmark.
Yeah, my mother did that course, and then completely unrelated to my mother, I got a copy of the book, and then I went to Landmark Education.
That's actually kind of led to so at 14, my uncle was a est trainer, so I got involved with it, and that from there kind of started my journey. So anyways, anytime maybe we do a private Facebook chat or whatever, and I can go on and on about it too much, actually. So
thank you.
All right.
I had a kind of a lighthearted question. I was wondering if anyone knew if Ingo had any favorite movies or TV shows or books, like fiction or stories type books or movies that he just maybe thought was clever. I guess from his perspective, what he might think is interesting or clever.
I don't know. I didn't. I mean, I've seen articles and stuff where he talks about films that he saw. You know, when he went to see the Matrix film and bits and pieces, and Close Cars of Furkind and a few things like that. But yeah, I don't know anything other than what I've seen snippets from in articles, to be honest.
Hey, Daz.
Yeah.
In Penetration, there was this scene where Ingo was, out west in some kind of in the produce section, and he saw this really gorgeous girl that ended up being otherworldly.
Yeah.
And his buddy said, "Oh yeah, there's tons and tons of them out there." And I try to keep this awareness, but I really live in a shithole, so they would never be here. So I'm wondering if you've ever thought maybe you encountered them. My husband one time, when he was a massage therapist, came home and started swearing that he had rubbed wasn't human, but rich people. What do I know?
I don't know. The problem I have is I used to be pretty psychic spontaneously in my younger years, but because I've spent so many years now, 24 years doing CRV and remote viewing, I feel that I've purposely turned off and probably atrophied my natural spontaneity, so that I don't pick up much.
It's very interesting.
And I don't know if that's intentional from me or if it's unintentional. Yeah, it just doesn't happen spontaneously to me that often now. But I can literally just sit down with a sheet of paper and then just go straight into it. But yeah, not spontaneously. So no, I don't think I've ever had any encounters when I've seen people and thought.
Can I just mention something I experienced that I had that was spontaneous? I had a dream like 20 years, 30 years ago. And before I even moved out east, I was living out west in Canada in Vancouver. Had a dream about a man. And I saw the person very clearly, what they looked like, and the character of the person. And 20 years later, I met this person. And it wasn't until after a while that I remembered my dream about them. I don't know if I'm talking to what you're asking, but that to me was remote viewing, because I saw this actual person, and later on in my life, it was verified physically, scientifically, that person existed. They looked like they looked in my dream. And I feel that was like a spontaneous remote viewing experience. I don't know what you think of that. I've wanted to ask somebody about that for a long time, because that is unexplainable, right?
It sounds like a classical precognitive experience, but I wouldn't class that as remote viewing, because remote viewing is quite specific in that it can't be spontaneous. It always has to be a planned project up front. But yeah, very similar. I mean, and you know, all the other psychic clairvoyance, clairaudience, you know, all the intuition things, they're all the same as remote viewing. They're just not within the same set of protocols that try to clean it up that we use. Any other questions? I'm just having a look through the one of the questions here. Has anyone attempted to view ITC communications, such as the case where ITC researcher Konstantin, looks like Roldiv, passed away during a study and soon after was allegedly recorded talking to his former colleagues via radio transmission from the other side? I've never seen anything. In fact, the only time I think I've seen any remote viewing where people have done anything that's kind of crossed over with death thing was the one Dick and myself put out where we did the JFK assassination, and I saw JFK kind of cross over. I mean, there might be some stuff out there where people have done other side of death things. I just don't remember seeing anywhere, not even in the Stargate archives or in any of the remote viewing groups, to be honest. It's not really a project that's come up much at all. Again, it would be a good project. The only problem is, like all other esoteric projects, you know, feedback on that kind of thing, really. Any other questions in? We're getting close to 2 hours here. Anyone want to share anything? Got any questions? Anything to say?
So last thing to you, Daz, when we're done, I'm going to send you a little synopsis and a link to Paul's latest coast-to-coast interview, where he goes a lot into stuff about the moon. I've never heard him go into anywhere or even in person. So if that's useful toward the article you're doing, there's a couple things there that are, I would say, a little bit eye-opening.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
I'll send that to you. I'll send that to you via private message Facebook as soon as we're done.
Excellent. Yeah, that'd be good. And I know Paul worked the project. I asked him a few years ago about it. And I know that Paul and a few others worked some other projects with Ingo as well, which I haven't been able to track down, especially looking in Ingo's archives. I know that they all did a really big project on Roswell, and Paul was involved in that as well, but I haven't managed to find any papers anywhere on it, or no one's come forward with the results of that one either.
Yeah, I can say that Paul is really, really, really good at holding data.
Yeah.
Did he ever give up his moon session from way back, Russell? Does he ever shown that to the public or no?
Well, I've seen one drawing from it, and maybe Daz has seen the same drawing, but this coast to coast interview was kind of like, I don't know if he was just in the mood to spill a few beans or what, but I, got a hold of him afterwards. I'm like, you've already denied half of what you said there to me personally. Because yeah, that's the way intelligence is. So it's funny. I get a kick out of it. So now I'm trying to learn to read every twitch to, figure out what's going on with him. But that coast to coast one is very much worth it.
Yeah, I'll definitely be interested in seeing that. As I said, I'm trying to get the magazine together with all the as much stuff. I'll have to put out another call asking for content for it. I've been to be honest, with the virus stuff and work on crypto viewing and stuff, I've been a bit preoccupied with other stuff, so I'm a bit behind on it. But yeah, I'll try to get the Mars Moon issue a bit more in play, I should say.
Yes.
Yep.
May I ask, when you're requested to do a target, or particularly if it's for another body outside your normal working, do you always know who that person is requesting or what that body is? Do you have a way of vetting where the question comes from, or not?
I like to try to get a project manager involved as soon as possible, so that nothing gets told to me. But it is, even though you try to inform people how to approach you, 90% of the people that contact me, and I probably get about 10 or 20 a week at the moment come through. They'll literally just say, "Hi Daz, you know, I've seen your stuff on YouTube or whatever. Will you remote view this for me? Blah 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 blah." And they'll tell me, you know, in the next paragraph, they'll tell me everything about the target. And you know, literally, I just have to go back and say, well, number one, I don't do projects from people I don't know, because you could be anyone, you know, from anywhere, you know, an intelligence agent or anything, or someone willing to harm someone. And number two, you've just told me what the target is, so what could I possibly tell you any more than that? But yeah, on serious projects, like when I was approached by Tom DeLonge and stuff, as soon as there's any talk at all about, you know, well, I want you to do a project, I try to stop the conversation and try to get a project manager involved so that no one tells me anything. But to be honest, 90, 95, 98% of the work I get offers all the time. I mean, literally this week alone, myself, Dick, and Edward from Crypto Review, we've had a very, very interesting offer made to us that I can't go into from someone that's allegedly very cash rich, that would make us very rich if we worked it. But there's some potential harm that could come to us from doing the target. So it looks like one we're going to have to turn down. And we, you know, all the time I get all kinds of crazy stuff. And literally, I do get crazy. You know, it's over the years, it's just bonkers the kind of stuff you get asked to do. You know, can you help me find lottery numbers? Can you help me find my cat? Lots of people wanting to hunt for ghosts.
Cross cats like Dirk Gently. Can I just ask a question about the language thing?
Yep.
That we were talking about, because I am like a language freak. Language is one of my interests. I studied at university. I studied ancient languages and ancient literature, and I'm actually made some translations on my own. So I understand this impetus about how important it is to isolate the meaning of words. And I've actually come across a theory, my own theory that I'm developing, but I discovered it in a Russian writer, actually a historical philosopher, Mikhail Bakhtin. He talks about heterophenomenological phenomenon in words, where words over time, they pick up more meaning. So they get what he calls shot through with new meanings. So they sort of drag meaning like a snowball. A word is like a snowball of meaning. So you do sort of have to strip away the additions. And I really like this sort of regress to just sounds. That's awesome, because that's kind of where you want to go for truth, for immediacy. Behind the words to the truth of things. You see what I'm saying? That I really like this. I want to hear what this person has to say about their studies in this area. It sounds really interesting to me.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, and you know, if you haven't read any of Ingo's books, I'd recommend them, because he's very adept at looking at this, as we discussed earlier. Language was very, very important to him.
Yeah, I totally now am motivated to have a look at these. I didn't realize I could keep finding more and more things, reasons why I'm finding this group. And I mean, I'm writing my own theory about how, what you call memes. This writer, Bakhtin, he talks about memes and how each word is a kind of meme, and it will accrete, it'll get, in fact, it can come up having the opposite meaning as it was originally intended, you know, as a meme. So I'm really looking forward to talking more about this kind of stuff, for sure.
Yep. Anything else for tonight, guys, or do you want to wrap it up? It's been 2 hours.
I have a question. Hi, I'm Auntie LaRue, and I do kind of a psychic version of remote viewing. Just because the protocols for remote viewing move me out of space where other levels of information is available, where the psychic level keeps that open. So I really appreciated your comment about how you felt like, you know, the more formalized remote viewing was pulling you away a little bit from your, you know, instinctual extrasensory perceptions, because I definitely experienced that myself. My question though is I do a remote viewing led for me to out-of-body travel, and I do a lot of out-of-body travel. I actually can open wormholes and take whole groups of people to places. The question I have though is some of the things that I've remote viewed, let's just say on this planet and on the moon and maybe Mars, could be extremely sensitive. So I kind of would like to hear you talk a little bit, especially on this Earth, things that can be found on this Earth. How's the way I can put this? Let's just say there's certain innocent beings that are here that crashed here and can't get home, and you have found them. Is there any, can you talk a little bit about the ethics and the moralities about how much we want to talk about and how much we don't want to talk about? I'm sure some guidelines or thought lines have been developed, and I thank you for that.
Well, the problem with remote viewing is I don't think there are any ethical guidelines. People tend to do what they want and say what they want and go where they want within remote viewing. I have guidelines, and there are certain projects and certain people I won't work for, like the one I was discussing earlier, and the one that could be very lucrative for me, but it would also be very dangerous at the same time. And I work within guidelines, whereas if I work on any paid-for projects myself, if I don't answer the question for the person that's paying for the project, they don't pay for the project. I've never had a person not pay for a project, but that is, that's written on paper. And I have the same ethics when I go through training as well. I train a couple of people a year, and each person I train, they have to fill out a questionnaire form first, and I ask them all kinds of things like, have you ever had any mental illnesses or any kind of mental problems, all this kind of stuff. And anyone I feel that may be vulnerable in any way, I won't train them. I just won't train people that I don't feel can cope with what remote viewing will do, because it does change you as a person. But I don't think, I'm not sure as a community there is a huge amount of ethical standards across the board. If I'm completely honest, I see and have seen in the years I've been doing this, some very well-known people within remote viewing not work ethically and highlight projects they say are real, with real cases of remote viewing, where I've seen the flaws in them and tried to detail the flaws. So it's a hard one. The International Remote Viewing Association, IRVA, do have some guideline ethical standards on their website, but it's not something that even they make each of the IRVA members adhere or stand to. It's just guidelines.
I guess maybe my question is more about, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help people to evolve their consciousness. And these are abilities we all have and we can all do. And if people will just kind of fold into themselves and get to find out who they are, they will discover that they're these amazing beings. And so I'm doing a series called Beyond the Wormhole, which is on YouTube. And the project I recorded last night, I realized after I did, it has a beautiful story, but I realized afterwards that if I publish it, there's potential it could cause harm if certain government entities or scientists actually watch it, because it does give the location to something that I don't think they know is there. I'm pretty sure they don't know is there. So that's really, I guess, more of my question is how much trolling is there of the remote viewing or out-of-body communities in terms of information gathering from,
I would say if you had something like that you wanted to remain sensitive, then absolutely do not put it out there. And I would say that it's my belief, and I've studied the remote viewing inside out now for 24 years. the whole Stargate documents, 98,000 pages of information and everything. I would say that the remote viewing community is being very closely watched and monitored. I would say that there are certain elements or certain people within the remote viewing community that I can't prove it, but I believe through what I've researched are there just to spread disinformation and to confuse. So yeah, I would be very careful. And there are books on this that I've read, which are, and they're fictional books, but they're quite good in the fact that, and I think Ingo recognized this in his book. He wrote a book called Starfire in, I think, 1978. It's a fictional book about a coming psychic war. I really do believe that as remote viewers and psychics putting this information out there, we are at times exposing ourselves to quite a lot of possible potential harm because there are no, it's been proved there are no hindrances to remote viewing and what it can do and what it can expose. So you have to be very careful. Yeah, I mean, and the stuff that I've done, public projects that I've done, most of the time I don't have a say in whether the information goes out or not because I'm a paid for remote viewer. So it's the client that essentially owns, like all the Farsight work I've done. I do own the information afterwards, but essentially when I do paid for remote viewing for a client, it's not up to, I don't have a choice in how they put it out and how they present it. Yeah, so I would be very, if you've got something like that and you think you've stumbled across something that might, someone that, or something that might be hidden on Earth or something, and other people don't know about it, and they could possibly infiltrate or use it in some way in a harmful way, then I would censor it and not put it online, because we all know from the leaks from Robert Snowden, the WikiLeaks stuff, the Robert Snowden stuff, and all the stuff that came out from Cambridge Analytica about Facebook and everything. I mean, and probably even Zoom now, with the allegations that all the Zoom meetings are being owned and run and sent through China and stuff. Everything that ever happens online in digital on your phones, and even when your phones are off, they can be used. It's all gathered against you, and it's all being used and hoovered up as information. So I would be very, very wary.
Can I ask Angie a clarification question?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So if I inferred correctly, it sounds like you are aware of the location of, say, a lost ET presence, and you're concerned about making them vulnerable by revealing their location.
Yeah, I mean, the location is currently being investigated. I mean, whatever group it is, scientists research under, I don't know, I think several different countries' purviews probably. Yeah, they're studying the craft, and they've got, all kinds of machinery around it that's collecting information and blah, blah, blah. What they don't know. Yeah.
Okay. So
I want to protect it because I want it can't go anywhere. And I want it to, for the rest of its days, have, a good life and not end up dissected in Area 52 or some other terrible way to end your existence.
Because one thing that happens in this remote viewing community, I laugh every time, and actually Daz is a good example. The motto is a world without secrets. Personally, I have never, even in the military, been so bound to so many secrets, or somebody gives you some data and you can't share it, and Daz will say, well, I've got this project, but I can't, and most of the people here will have some experience. So remote viewing is not going to produce a world without secrets. As far as I'm concerned, it's like increase the layer of secrets. But in terms of the types of ethics, I mean, if you believe in your heart that a being is going to be harmed by information, that has to come at a personal level. I don't think remote viewing could ever offer a guideline, and I don't think, a lot of remote viewers might even be able to perceive things in the dimensional way that you do, or however that works for you. But I mean, I would just say follow your heart. So I was recently tasked on a professional operational session. And then after the first submission, the project manager said, okay, this is what the project is. Would you like your data used for it or not? And I said, no. And that was just a personal call. They were just a part of something. And so they very ethically said, nope, your data will not be included in the final report. And I greatly appreciated that. So what I'm finding more and more with people like Paul and Daz, Bill Ray, others, Angela Thompson-Smith, just try to keep your network with good ethical people. You know, if you go to their Facebook and have a bunch of animal pictures, they're okay. No, I'm just teasing. But so you know, I mean, it has to become a personal call. So when I said no, you know, of course I'm like, you know, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings, or I don't want the project to fail, etc. Bottom line, I didn't want my data used for that purpose, and I stood my ground. I felt better for it. And so I would just say, not knowing the fullness of your situation, follow your heart, do what you know and believe is right, and I don't think you can go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the only story I have to tell. I've been out of body hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, and a lot of it, you know, the people I went with, when we came back, we did all kinds of sketches and wrote up the descriptions before it faded away and we lost it, you know. So I can just move on, but. Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful story though, and it expands our consciousness in terms of explorers from other races and the challenges they face, especially when crash landing on a planet like this with a kind of a brutal, fearful race, and what that means like to be, you know, just kind of on a deserted island. And
yeah.
So, you know, I mean, it's thought-provoking stuff, but I can certainly either reframe that or just move on and do a different one.
I mean, yeah, the whole ethics thing is a really interesting subject within remote viewing, because, for example, I've done hundreds of cases working for the United States police forces, and you know, on occasion they would try to get me to track suspected killers, I guess. And people that have done crimes, which I did and helped. But when I look at it as a sideline in retrospect, you kind of think to yourself, okay, well, you know, the police are asking me as a psychic to track and find the location of a person that's a suspect, but ethically at this stage, they don't have any hardcore evidence against this person. You know, they're innocent. You know, by the United States, because I'm in the UK, but by the United States laws, they're innocent until proven guilty. So, what ethically, you know, how do I stand as a person that's tracking someone that hasn't got any evidence against them? So, you know, there's lots of things within remote viewing, you know, and just the fact that most of us, when we go to targets, especially when we work operational targets, you know, we will say, oh yeah, I see a life form here, it's a person, and then you go into that, you know, you just automatically go in that person, you start detailing their thought patterns, what they're thinking of, what they're doing. I do this all the time with crypto viewing, when we're looking at CEOs of companies that have got these cryptos, just to see how they feel about the crypto, when they think they might sell, and all this kind of stuff. But you know, when you move yourself aside from your remote viewing, ethically, is it right to go in, or right to detail someone's entire thoughts and emotions and stuff like that? It is a hot topic that's never been adequately.
Well, you know, and this might be the very thing that forces the evolution of consciousness, is because there are those of us that can go and jump in somebody's brain and pull out all kinds of information.
Yeah.
There are ways to block that as well, and learning how to do that might be the thing that forces the evolution of consciousness. Is, you know, I mean, you got some people out there with some skills, and if you've got a lot of paranoia, you're going to have to learn how to evolve yourself so that doesn't matter to you. So yeah, it's a highly interesting subject. It
is, yeah. It's a really good topic. You know, it's a topic that you could spend a few hours on just debating it. And I don't think anyone in the field's come up with a solution yet. I know Irva's got some guidelines, and a few other people got guidelines. I think most of us just work within our own ethical values, really. You know, and I try not to do any harm. And I try to help as many people as possible, which is why I do all this kind of stuff. You know, I try to give as much away for free as I possibly can, and I have done for many years. I think most people are similar and have good ethical values, but it's a hard one. Yeah, but yeah, I would say be very wary of everything, because everything we do online and even offline, you know, like my phone's here by the side now, and I know I've seen the evidence that you don't even have to have your phone on, and there are intelligence agencies that can still record audio or video with your phone being off. You know, this technology is absolutely out there. It's been detailed, so you have to be very careful of, you know, if you want to keep secrets. And I do know. And I've seen instances of possible evidence that anything to do with remote viewing has been picked up. You know, because the echelon system alone that picks up keywords in all email, all text, all social media conversations. The things we're talking about, like tonight, we've been talking about. You know, we mentioned ETs, we mentioned Area 51, Area 52, Ingo Swann. We probably mentioned CIA. We've probably mentioned enough keywords to trip a switch somewhere that someone's had a look at the conversation just to see what we're talking about. I think they mentioned you have to have 7 trip words in a conversation of 2 minutes for that conversation to then be recorded and then assign someone to look at it. So everything we do online is being tracked. To be very, I would say be very aware of everything. It's the era we live in, I'm afraid.
Do you ever think you've been followed, Des, or monitored? Without giving too much away, obviously.
Not followed. I've had some instances where I've worked some when I've worked some very key projects. I've had instances of emails going missing and people saying, "Oh, I sent you this email out yesterday. Did you get it?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't get it." And and it always seems to be when I'm working a couple of key projects, but nothing I can definitively put my finger upon. But you know, I'm into technology, and you know, I've read up and investigated what Snowden says, and there's a great website called The Intercept, which has got all the people on it. It did the Guardian, the WikiLeaks stuff, and all that kind of stuff. They have all the latest information and what the interagencies do it, and they literally do hoover up everything. So you have to be. Yeah, you have to be careful. I'm not so careful. I just don't care anymore. I'd say anything. You know, what can they do? You know, if anyone wanted to kill you in today's society, it's pretty easy to do, isn't it? You know, it's easy to induce a heart attack into anyone. So, yeah. But yeah, if you do want to keep something secret, like the location of something, then just don't say it. But yeah, you can guarantee you start doing remote viewing, you start putting stuff out there, you'll be on someone's radar somewhere.
Do you think Pat Price was killed?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, did you see the documentary, The Third Eye Spies?
Don't think so.
You should watch that, because I can't work out if they think so or not, but it kind of indicates, I think, that Russell Targ and a few other top people do think that he was killed. I don't know. I mean, I've read the documents. I find it very interesting that he was, is teased the right word? Stolen or teased? He was moved away. No, move's not the right word. He was recruited away from SRI by the CIA, and then the moment he was, you know, literally a few days after he was recruited away from SRI, he died and disappeared. I find that quite intriguing.
It's a bit fishy, I must admit.
Yeah. I don't believe in coincidences.
No.
There was a whole list of things from, you know, no autopsy, unmarked grave. I think he was buried before his family members had any say. I think that was mentioned in the video.
There is some very dodgy stuff going on there.
I do have a question. I took a remote viewing class that changed my life about 20 years ago, actually, now. And the first session, I did it so good that I didn't want to do it again. I just wanted to leave, and I was afraid of doing my second. did my second, and again, you know, I did it so good that I wondered whether I was subliminally getting the information or there was some trickery going on. And then I did the third session, and that too was just incredible. My challenge with being a remote viewer is exactly what you had indicated. You really do need a monitor. You need somebody to give you the targets, because you can't go in front loaded, which is it's not even a speed bump, it's a roadblock for me.
It's hard working on your own, and that's, you know, why we've got the Facebook group and that. Really, if any of you need people to work with, just put yourself out there and ask. But you know, once you do get someone apply, please vet the people first. You know, get to know. Don't just set the first target from someone. Get to know the person. You know, don't be afraid to say, okay, you know, what's your history? Can you tell me a bit about yourself? Make sure you're working, you know, with a sane person first, because there are a few that I've encountered over the years which are a bit out there, and you know, you don't want to be working for some kind of or an intelligence agency or someone that wants to hunt down their ex-wife and do some damage or something either. You know, you have to be very careful. But there are people out there that will work with you in groups. You know, I know several groups of practice groups that are up and running on different projects, and I've worked with many over the years. And you know, I'm in the state at the moment, whereas I got a YouTube channel, and I want to regularly put up really good, interesting remote viewing live RV sessions. And I'm in the process myself of asking 10 or 20 people, you know, can you give me 10 targets each? Because I need some targets to work, and I can't set my own targets. So I think we all have the problem.
Yeah.
But on the Facebook group, Paul's putting weekly targets now, which are good. You should go in those.
Yeah, I need to get on that. I haven't made time. Now that I'm getting more time that the kids are older and out of the house, I feel this is my time to start getting re-engaged.
Yeah.
No? You afraid of me?
Any more questions, or do you want to finish up for the night now?
I'm good, thank you, Des, and thank you for a great
Dad.
night.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll finish there for tonight then. And I guess if we're all in lockdown and stuff, we can always meet next week. I don't know, Russell, did you want to do a talk next week on Scientology stuff or anything? I'm more than happy with that if you want.
I've gotten a couple of PMs on Facebook, and then a couple of people here have mentioned it. If it's a topic of interest, take a vote. I mean, I don't want to drag people. Okay, I mean, I can keep it concise. So if people collectively say, yeah, let's do it, I'd be happy to, sure.
Okay, well, we'll put a poll on the Facebook page and see if everyone wants to do it. And if they do, well, if you've got time next Friday, we could do a segment on that.
Well, yeah, even if we don't do that topic, I'm not going to miss one of these. These are awesome. So, you know, we could set maybe a time frame,
okay.
A subset of whatever is broader. And on that topic, I'll be honest with you, the way to do it's Q&A. It's such a broad topic, and it's so convoluted that if I try to explain anything, it might not go to where people want to know.
Yeah.
So if people are interested in participating, come up with a couple of questions, and then we'll just start by answering questions, and if it leads to something else, so forth. So Q&A is the best format for it.
Sounds good. All right. Well, we'll leave it there now.
Okay.
Hope you guys have a good weekend, and well, I don't know. I'll put a post on Facebook, seeing if anyone can come up with any topics they want to talk about next week or something, and we'll see where we go from there.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks. Stay healthy, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, stay safe.
Stay safe.
Take care.
Yeah, you too.